Her name is Iman Adil. A whole village attended her funeral, and despite her being betrayed and abandoned by one of the closest people in her life, the law was able to take her revenge. This case took place in an Egyptian village in 2020. Iman was known for her good manners and beauty. She lived with her husband Hussein Abdullah, who was from Iraq but resided in Egypt. Hussein was a handsome man and he owned a clothing store for women. Iman and Hussein were married traditionally, with a family visit followed by their mutual consent. When Iman married Hussein, she was still a college student, and her family suggested that she continue her education after the marriage, which she agreed to. Despite Iman's beauty, for which the whole village praised her, Hussein, her husband, had multiple affairs and continuously cheated on her. His job as a seller for women's clothing made it easy for him to meet other women. This was in addition to his financial status, which attracted women to him. After a year of marriage, problems began to arise between Iman and Hussein, mostly because of Hussein's multiple affairs. However, Iman didn't tell anyone about these disputes with her husband. Hussein had bad reputation, known among those around him, and the locals disapproved of his behaviors. Iman gave birth to a child named Ali, so she tried her best to make the marriage life continue for her child. Hussein often thought about separating from Iman and divorcing her, but his family denied the idea, especially since he had a child with her. So, they refused his desire and threatened to cut off their financial supplies to him if he ever divorced his wife Iman. Over time, Hussein met a woman he considered more beautiful than his wife Iman, and he tried to relate to her. However, she rejected him and demanded that he marry her after divorcing Iman. But because the idea of divorcing Iman was difficult for him because of his family, Hussein began to think of another way to get rid of Iman without causing any problems with his family, until he came up with the most evil idea imaginable. A thought that had never crossed a normal person's mind, especially a man. He decided to tarnish his wife's reputation in the eyes of his family and the entire village. However, because he knew that if he told anyone that Iman was in a relationship with another man, no one would ever believe him due to Iman's family's good reputation in the village. He decided to devise an evil plan to prove that Iman was unfaithful and cheating on him with another man. And by doing so, he would expose her to everyone, making their divorce seem natural. His plan was to provide evidence, proving her unfaithfulness by arranging for someone to assault her sexually. Then he would publicly shame her, accusing her of dishonor and infidelity. His plan revolved around making it matter of honor and exposing her in front of all the people, including his family. The problem with this plan for Hussein was determining who would play the role of his wife's lover and assault her. While pondering a solution, he noticed one of the workers in his clothing store, Ahmad Rida Shahat, who was close to him, and his financial situation was poor, and Hussein knew that Ahmad needed money to pay off a debt. So, Hussein decided to make an unusual request and presented Ahmad with his plan. Ahmad was astonished by what he heard from Hussein at first. But when Hussein offered him a sum of 200,000 Egyptian pound, Ahmad agreed to execute the crime. Hussein gave Ahmad 100,000 pounds as an advance payment, with the rest to be paid after the execution. So, Ahmad bought veiled women's clothing to disguise himself, and Hussein disabled all the surveillance cameras inside the house. Ahmad also was given a copy of the house key to facilitate the execution. All of this happened without Iman, the loyal wife to her husband and the mother to her 9-month-old son, being aware. Then came the day of the crime. Hussein left the house around 12:30 p.m., pretending to go on a trip for some business. Suddenly, Ahmad entered in a veil while Iman was studying, half an hour after Hussein left his house. Iman resisted Ahmad's attempt to assault with all her strength, while her son screamed. Ahmad then decided to kill her, to make it easier for him to carry out his crime, so he strangled her, and a few moments later, Iman died. Ahmed then stripped her and assaulted her lifeless body twice and fled the house wearing the same veil. Ahmed then called Hussein and informed him that he had killed her. Hussein decided not to return home as he didn't expect her to be killed, only assaulted. After the heinous crimes occurred, by coincidence, one of Iman's relatives who lived in the same residential building entered the apartment after hearing the child crying and was shocked to find Iman's body. So he immediately notified the police after gathering all the neighbors, and the police informed Hussein, who arrived at the scene completely devastated. The entire village was deeply saddened by Iman's death, and no one expected Hussein to be the mastermind behind this crime. When the police arrived to the scene, they found no evidence of theft or forced entry into the apartment. So, they tried to examine the surveillance cameras in the house, but found that they had been disabled at the time of the crime. And they sent Iman's body to forensic lab, which confirmed that she died from strangulation and she was sexually assaulted after death. At that time, Hussein was in contact with Ahmed, reassuring him that it would be difficult for the police to reach him due to the lack of evidence linking him to the crime. But in fact, the police and the forensic experts had a different opinion. They examined all the surveillance cameras in the street around the building, which led them to the timing of the veiled woman's entry and exit from the house. However, they concluded that this veiled woman was actually a man, based on his gait and physical build. The police tracked him down and questioned all the veiled women's clothing stores about any man who had purchased veiled clothing from them. At that time, Iman's funeral was held, attended by almost all the residents of the village, during which Hussein played the role of the grieving husband. The police eventually reached a store that sold veiled women's clothing, where the owners informed them that indeed someone had purchased veiled clothing and claimed it was for his wife, who was the same size and height as him. So, they reviewed the store's surveillance cameras and identified the man as Ahmed El-Shahat, so he was arrested immediately. And after conducting investigations, police discovered that Ahmed worked for Hussein's store. So, they were surprised by Ahmed's betrayal and his murder to Hussein's wife, despite Hussein's kind treatment of him at work. Furthermore, fingerprints found on Iman's neck matched Ahmed's, in addition to DNA analysis, confirming that he was the perpetrator. With all the evidence against him, Ahmed confessed to everything, implicating Hussein. This revelation shocked the police, as they learned that Hussein had conspired with Ahmed to assault his wife. Hussein was apprehended immediately, amid shock and disbelief from all the locals, including his own family. During the interrogations, Hussein only objected on one aspect, claiming he hadn't agreed to her murder, but only her assault. After the investigations were completed, both Ahmed and Hussein were sentenced to death by hanging, according to the Egyptian laws. And as usual, see you in the next video.